Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. This being episode 487 of the Concealed Carry podcast. And Matthew and I here doing the show with you today. Looking forward to a great episode with y'all. Today's news and gear reviews episode. And we got some great news stories to share with you, including the release of at least 3 new pistol options from 3 different manufacturers. Kind of, it's always exciting to see new guns come to the market. And the thing that's interesting, I thought, Matthew, is that all 3 of these are optics ready.
Yeah. Yes. We were just talking about that a while ago.
That is the standard now. The standard is if you're a manufacturer of pistols, now when you release a new pistol, it basically comes or should come optics ready. And I've been of that opinion for a long time. And we're finally starting to see all the manufacturers pretty much get on that page. And exciting times we're in. Hello, Bobby, Tony, Brett, and Hopper. Thank you for joining you all. Appreciate you being a part of this with us today. I need to. Okay, yep. Sorry, just confirming some behind the scenes stuff here on my end. Yeah, cool. All right. I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready. You know me.
Always ready. Well, let's kick off the recorded portion of the show. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for joining. And Gary, welcome. All right, let's do it. And James, if the comments keep coming, it's gonna keep me from kicking this show off. All right, in 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry podcast, episode number 487. And welcome to the Concealed Carry podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. I am your host, Riley Bowman, and I have with me today Matthew, Mr. Matthew Maruster.
Big shock, right? Big shock for everyone. You're stuck with me.
When you started saying big shock, I thought you were going to say big shot. That's right, you are a big shot.
Yeah, you know me. Yeah,
the old Billy Joel song comes to mind.
Oh,
you had to be a big shot, did you?
There you go.
Yeah, that goes back a ways. Hey, guys, welcome to the show today. This is our monthly news and gear reviews episode. And all of a sudden, I have video playing in the background. What the crap? I have no idea where that came from. Okay, we'll edit that out of the audio show. I was like, what? Love when random tabs start playing stuff on you. Where was I? Oh, yeah. All right. Well, this is our monthly news and gear reviews episode. And Matthew and I have some great episodes. Now I can't even talk.
I'm going to have to take over, man.
Dang you, news website, you people, for auto playing videos.
He's impaired.
I think there should be a law against automatically playing videos. Seriously. It's like it is the most annoying thing I think ever. But anyway, welcome to our monthly news and gear reviews episode. This time we've got a couple of great stories to share with you guys, including some new gun option or pistol option releases. I won't say they're all new pistols because they're not all totally new pistols. But new options coming from 3 major manufacturers. Kind of exciting to see. And one of those was a bit of a surprise to me, actually, because I don't know. I just didn't know if it was a priority or not for that particular manufacturer. And we'll talk about who that one is here in a little bit. A couple other interesting stories, too, we'll share with you. One about micro stamping. That seems to be... it's always on the radar of some of the anti-gunners wanting to, pass stupid legislation, right? That stuff that has been shown to not really work or work very effectively. just from a physical standpoint of things. And then, of course, there's the societal, like side of it. Like, does it actually benefit society? And that's obviously doubtful as well. But we're going to talk about that some more today. Also, an interesting story here from NPR about, did record gun sales cause a spike in gun crime? So we'll get to that story. It's kind of an interesting one to look at, and some interesting takeaways, I think, from that story. So, but today's episode is sponsored by the 2021 Guardian Conference in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, later this year, September 17th, 18th, and 19th. We've got a bunch of you already signed up, and we still are seeing ticket sales stream in, which is really exciting to see. We're getting along there. As far as I can't tell for sure how long we'll have tickets available for the event. So guys, right now, still early bird pricing available. The super early bird pricing for Guardian Nation members just went away last week. But the early bird pricing is in effect for everybody, Guardian Nation member or not. And for those of you Guardian Nation members that missed out on the super early bird pricing, just know it only went up $50. I know $50, but hey, it's still a really awesome steal of a deal. The kind of quality of training that you're going to be able to participate in for 3 days. So guys, check out guardianconference.com. That's the website. Find out information about the event. We have a couple of hotels very close to the venue. In fact, like 12-minute drive away, that we got a really great group discount rate with. There's going to be breakfast and lunch each day provided. We're going to have a couple of special events and opportunities also for prizes and giveaways and things. In fact, I'm still working on confirming the details, but 99.9% certain we're going to have a gun that's going to be given away to one lucky attendee of the Guardian Conference. So guys, go to guardianconference.com, learn about the training event, and sign up today. Also, today's episode is sponsored by we just want to bring you to your attention, our new gun safety course that was just recently filmed. It was kind of a bit of a hole that was lacking in our online video training library. We had some other videos that kind of touched on it in various areas and places and pieces, but we thought, we really need to create just a dedicated gun safety course. So this is a free online course, and the way you access it is by logging into the members area. All you have to have is an account. Okay, so even if you're not a Guardian Nation member, you can log into your account and go to the Guardian University. That's where we have all of our training videos located that you can go through and go through those various courses online. The gun safety one is totally free, and it is available now. A link, if you would like a short link, is concealedcarry.com/gun safety course. And so we'd encourage you to check that out. Or maybe, if you know somebody that you think could benefit from going through a gun safety video course like this, send them the link. Again, concealedcarry.com/gun safety course. Let's get into our first story here. And this one on concealedcarry.com. This made the rounds on social media last week. I came across it and forwarded it over to our managing editor, Josh, who wrote up this article about the Giffords Impact Network, is what it's called. This started from a Twitter post, or tweet, I guess is really what you call it, right? It started from a tweet from the Giffords. What do they call themselves now? Like I've seen their branding just focusing on Giffords. Like that's just like, it used to be like the Gifford something or other, but website's giffords.org. Okay. But they have instituted this new Giffords Impact Network, which they're describing as a network of companies dedicated to fight gun violence and help keep communities safe. This is what I love about the anti-gunners and their strategies, Matthew, is we use fancy sounding buzzwords that don't really mean anything to make us feel good, and it I'm sure people get suckered into that hey, we gotta fight against gun violence, which, by the way, I don't disagree with, right? Like that's the problem, is that it's these fancy sounding buzzwords that everybody's like, well, that sounds like a good idea. But really, really what they're all about is more gun control, because that's how we fight against the gun violence and make our community safer, is that we need stricter gun control laws. By the way, I've been on the record for saying this in the past. If somebody could craft, oh my gosh, another video going off. What the heck?
I think there's a setting in Google, in Chrome. Do you use Chrome?
I do. Like, there's probably a plugin or an extension or something
Right.
that like automatically, turn off any auto playing videos. Anyway, where was I again?
If there was a craft, somebody could craft the law.
Oh, right. And I'm on the record in the past for saying something like this, that if a law could be crafted that actually did make it harder for criminals to commit crime with guns while not imposing restrictions on law-abiding citizens, I have no problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have no problem with that. The problem is I don't really think you can craft many, especially any new laws on top of what we already have that are really capable of doing that. And certainly the anti-gunners are incapable of doing that, because we keep going to the same playbook again and again and again, like the whole micro-stamping thing we're going to talk about here in a little bit. That is the playbook. Hey, we need micro-stamping. We need wait periods on gun purchases. We need universal background checks, including private sales from close friends to close friends, even sometimes within families. We need required storage, gun storage bills with penalties included in those. And the list goes on and on. It's the same playbook, right? And it's all about hindering law-abiding citizens, not actually fighting criminals with guns. Now, the companies that have stepped up, as Giffords has described, and signed up for this Giffords Impact Network are Dick's Sporting Goods. Shocker. I mean, we've seen the trend with that company, although it's pretty interesting that just a short, couple years ago, they were still selling all the usual stuff, rifles, semi-automatic and bolt action, both pistols, same thing, ammunition galore. All that stuff is pretty much gone away as far as Dick's concerned. Tom's Shoes, Kenneth Cole, Levi Strauss Company, Lyft, Amalgamated Bank, Mesirofin, I don't even know what that is, Northwell Health, and Postmates. These are part of the new Giffords Impact Network.
Yeah, that Mesirofin is it's Mesiro Finance. It's a it's like a banking type thing, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
but now I kind of discounted that. However, we've covered in the past stories about banks and other financial institutions that are, there are people out there that want to restrict gun rights through the financial system. And that is definitely a concern.
Yeah, and that's part of the four-prong, I guess, point of this impact network. These are the four major ideas. They want to help companies engage on gun safety at the federal, state, and local level. That's your petitioning governments and for legal laws and all this, drafting comments for the record to weigh in on gun safety and all that stuff, right? So that's the typical playbook there. Train employees at impact network companies. So what they want to do is take all the companies that join into this impact network and train their employees, including gun safety policy, organizing and advocacy training, and lessons on firearm safety practices like safe storage, like you mentioned, or how to petition for an extreme risk protection order. Okay, so that's what they want to. They want to add that into your, employee training package, is how to petition for extreme risk protective orders and things like that. The third prong is work with companies on core business issues related to gun safety to help ensure products and corporate policies are designed with gun violence prevention in mind. Not sure how Levi Strauss is ensuring products and corporate policies designed with gun violence. I don't know. I know they banned, guns in their stores and stuff like that, but maybe they don't make, pockets that you can put a pocket holster in. I don't know. Maybe Levi's can figure that out. And then finally, host impact network summits to convene companies. All right. Get all these companies together, survivors, young advocates, local nonprofits, and elected leaders to promote evidence-based initiatives, unveil new research, and build new partnerships for future efforts. It looks like a big, hey, let's get together and pat ourselves on the back and talk about all these big ideas that we have and how we're changing the world. So it looks like a bunch of, let's weigh in on legal stuff as best we can. Okay. And let's try to indoctrinate as many people, that we can.
This is the next phase of the gun control efforts, is to attack it through private industry, through private corporations and businesses. And that's the thing, this is just evidence of how dedicated and how likely to, I hate to say this, but how likely to succeed these people are at getting more gun control in this country. Because those of us on the pro-gun side, we're not as innovative as the anti-gunners are where it comes to this stuff. We aren't. And that's part of because like status quo, like it's hard to look outside yourself, think outside the box, and be concerned about doing anything when, it's pretty easy just to maintain the status quo. So the status quo is always at risk of being changed. And the anti-gunners are constantly looking for ways, new strategies and methods for coming after our rights. And it's a shotgun approach. It's on all kinds of levels, right? Through more traditional means, through supporting politicians, and pushing for legislation to be passed. But now if you can get more of the, private business and private corporations stepping up and saying that they're in support of gun control, of course, if you can infiltrate the schools, which that's already basically a lost battle for us. So yeah, the point is it is a constant attack from all angles, and we have to step up our game.
Yeah.
I don't, if you want to not support these businesses listed by not shopping there, like that's up for you to decide. I'm not calling for a boycott or anything like that. I don't do that. But it is good to know who your enemies are, right? And I certainly think that it's just like we talk about writing our congressmen and women to express our support or non-support for various legislation. We can write these companies. We can mount social media campaigns. We can call them out and say, "Hey, we disagree with what you're doing." Now, the problem, that's what's so genius about this strategy and the language that's used, because the part of the strategy is to paint pro-gunners as crazy people, because we say that we don't support Giffords in this effort. We don't support Dick's, Tom's, Kenneth Cole, Levi Strauss, Lyft, Amalgamated Bank, Macero Finance, Northwell Health, and Postmates. And then the comeback is, well, wait, you're not for fighting against gun violence? You're not for making our communities safer? No, it's not that. It's that we strongly disagree on how you want to go about doing that. But that's a more nuanced thing to communicate. And we need to figure out and do a better job of how to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know, like, when you go into a store and you see a sign on the door that says, no guns, and that person behind the counter, if you try to engage with that person, they may not. The only understanding of gun safety or gun violence is what they're being taught in this, these employee, training about gun violence and gun violence restraining orders and this and that, and being fed all these like statistics on like 6,000, mass shootings every day or whatever it might be. And they have no idea. They're like an 18-year-old kid who just got out of high school and they're getting a job, you know what I mean? And so, but what's interesting is if you think about it and you're like, well, why would a company exclude not half, but a good portion of their business or their customer base, right? Like we know a lot of people are buying guns and there's new gun owners. So why would a company be like, okay, we're going to draw this hard line unless, right, they know that somehow they're going to benefit from this. And there's one statement on this Gifford's courage to fight gun violence. And this might kind of underpin, and I'm not saying it's financial, and I'm not saying that at all. I think these people really do believe this, but here's something that might be telling. It says, polling conducted by Global Strategy Group on behalf of Gifford shows that since the onset of COVID-19 and the murder of George Floyd, Americans overwhelmingly believe companies have the power and responsibility to influence social change, especially on gun safety. Nearly 85% of Americans believe businesses have a responsibility to make their communities safer, and 7 out of 10 say they would feel more favorable to a company who partnered with gun violence prevention organizations to raise awareness. Now, I mean, I don't know about these statistics, right? 85%, 7 out of 10. But all I know is a company is not going to, cut off 30% of the population right off the bat unless they believe that they're still going to be able to make money. And if this is the polling that they're being shown that says, hey, get on board because 7 out of 10 companies are going to pick you over that person, that company, because they're not anti-gun or whatever, or they don't care about gun violence or whatever. You can see there's a desire, for companies to say, hey, well, I'm on the fence, but hey, I don't want to be against gun violence, so, and plus 7 out of 10, okay, I'll join. So this is an ideological thing. This is definitely an ideological thing.
Yeah, we should probably move on, but I first of all, I find it hard to believe those numbers, those statistics. To me, that sounds made up a little bit, or that the source of those statistics was biased in some way. I suspect, like, just based on the number of 70% of Americans would be more favorable towards businesses that have partnered with gun violence prevention, whatever. Like you said, like there's probably a substantial amount, number of Americans that that's not even on the radar for them as far as like considering whether to do business with a business or not. So like, yeah, just right off the bat, like 70% seems pretty high. And it would really depend too on how that poll was conducted, the questions that were asked, who was asking them, and who the sample is. Who are the people that were responding to that? But anyway, let's go on to the firearmblog.com. 7 key facts about the firearm industry in 2020. Bear Creek Arsenal. So Bear Creek Arsenal recently sent over, it says here, a nicely done infographic detailing some updated statistics for the firearms industry in 2020. So we'll kind of go through these with you, and pretty interesting. So number 1, 2020 shattered the previous NICS background check record. So that's the first one here. This is actually pretty eye-opening. The previous old record was set in 2016, which was an election year when half the country thought we were going to end up with a second Clinton presidency. And in 2016, there was 15.7 million NICS background check records. Is one of the primary data points that's used to gauge sales in the firearms industry, because it's one of the few things we're able to actually see. Now, each background check is at least related to the sale of one firearm, but it could be for multiple. So that's always important to keep in mind. To put in context, last year, really 2019, the year prior to 2020, there was 13.2 million sales or background checks. But for 2020, there was 21.1 million background checks for firearm sales in the year 2020. So it shattered the previous record of 15.7 million in 2016. So basically, we're talking 5.3 million more background checks done in the year 2020. That's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is certainly explained by the fact there's a lot of first-time gun buyers in the industry. In fact, I think that comes back into the picture here a little bit further down, looking at this infographic. Guys, again, if you are listening to the podcast only and you're not seeing what's on the screen right now, you can go see this news story for yourself. Links for these stories are always included in the show notes of the published podcast. Number 2, Texas reigns supreme, but not by much. So Texas is the number one state for those background checks. Okay, so we're still talking about NICS background checks. Texas was at 1.8 million. Florida was a little, was fairly close behind, 1.6 million. Then California, 1.2 million. Pennsylvania, just over 1 million. And Virginia, 810,000 background checks. So kind of some interesting things there. Like people think of California as not a gun state, but there are a lot of gun owners in California. So we can't sell California short in that regard. Virginia was probably the other surprising one to me, Matthew, that it was number 5 on this list. When we look, first of all, Texas and Florida, 2 very populous states, also very pro-gun states, speaking. California, most populous state in the country. Okay, so that makes sense. Pennsylvania, pretty populated, and also generally pro-gun, so not too surprising. Virginia, okay, but think of it like the way I look at this is what other states could have fit into that number 5 slot? Mm-hmm. And there are probably a handful, like Ohio, I think could have probably been number 5. Indiana could probably be in there. Even Illinois wouldn't surprise me at all that it's somewhere, probably even in the top 10. So kind of interesting to note there.
Yep.
Facts number 3 and 4. This has to do with first-time gun buyers and increased sales. So the first fact here is it's looking at the percentage increase in sales by state, and the state with the highest increase in sales was Michigan, 180% increase. I believe that was year over year, so compared to 2019. Washington, D.C., 140% increase. That one surprised me a little bit. That is really quite interesting. Rhode Island, 111% increase. Also kind of interesting. Alabama, 95%. Okay, cool. Way to go, Alabama. 95% increase in New Jersey. Also kind of interesting. Then also the second thing here on this part of the infographic, and this is relating to fact number 4, is that the National Shooting Sports Foundation estimates that over 8.4 million people purchased a gun for the first time. And this was based on retail surveys. Mm. That's a lot. We've talked about that before. Yeah.
In all different demographics, political ideologies, across the board. It's a big, that's shattering. All these other numbers are massive and eye-opening, but this is but you could say, okay, well, just more gun owners are buying, more people that like guns are buying more guns, but it's just not that case. And it's not all, all of one political ideology. So I think, and we talked about that, I think offline a while back about trying to reach other people and help them get into gun safety and things like that, because they may not come from that background at all, so
and actually that came up in our conversation about producing our own gun safety video course. Was, hey, a lot of new or first time gun owners out there. So here's a free resource to go learn about some gun safety. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Tony on Facebook commenting that his mother was one of these first time fires. So bravo. And I've mentioned before how I really hope that fact alone helps us in the fight for gun rights, in bringing more people of a broader background, a variety of backgrounds into the 2A tent, so to speak, that hopefully that helps build some momentum to fight against things like what the Giffords organization is pushing for, and their Impact Network, and the Brady campaign, and Every Town, and like they have been so, I think, effective with their, do I say marketing strategies? I think that makes sense. That people need to start seeing through the BS. And part of the solution there is you make people gun owners. And there's a reason why all these people became gun owners for the first time. And chances are it's because they saw the civil unrest across the country. They saw supplies disappearing from store shelves. They were concerned about this virus. And they're realizing, hey, the government isn't there to protect me like maybe I thought was the case, or maybe the way I was brought or raised or whatever. I'm on my own. I need to defend myself. I need a tool to do that. Let's go buy a gun. Hopefully we can see through the BS and go, hey, these people are talking about restricting the thing that I just bought last year. That hopefully starts clicking in some people's heads. Facts 5, 6, and 7. Number 5 is market size value for ammunition, $21.38 billion. Keep in mind, we reported a few months ago about how federal had reported that they had like $5 billion in back orders for ammunition purchases. That kind of paints a little bit of a picture of just how big federal CCI Spear is in the overall market. $21.4 billion market size for civilian ammunition. Over 9 billion rounds produced in the year 2020. That's fact number 6. That's just a little bit. And then the final thing is that there are about 332,000 American jobs provided by the firearms industry, which is awesome. That's a lot of people employed.
Yeah. I mean, so when we look at these, like, people being out of work or whatever, or somebody saying, hey, it's okay if, we really cinched down on these ammunition companies, right? And we're going to burden them with extra regulations as far as ammunition or background checks for ammunition purchases or something. It might seem common sense, but those things have direct impact on businesses' bottom line and things like that, and it affects people's jobs, right? Like, we look at businesses, and somebody might want to cancel a business because they make a magazine component or something like that, or make ammunition. They think they're bad people, but I mean, they're people that are putting their kids through school and putting food on the table and stuff like that, that go to work every day and make ammunition, not just for, bad guys on the street, but they make law enforcement, military. I mean, so there's a lot more interconnectedness to markets and businesses and people's lives than what a lot of people want you to think, so when you start canceling people or boycotting, it's not just that simple, I don't think.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, kind of some interesting facts there about the firearm industry as we look back at the year 2020. So pretty amazing stuff. I have a comment from Donald on Facebook. He says, love to hear your thoughts on the Second Amendment sanctuary town resolution passed by the town of Burrillville Rhode Island in April 2019 and to be reaffirmed tonight, March 10th, 2021. Thank you for the work you do. Well, Donald, appreciate you taking the time to comment. And while that's probably a little too specific of an issue for, like, for instance, I don't know anything about it. I have to go look it up. But if it sounds like what I think it is, Burrillville, Rhode Island decided to pass a sanctuary town resolution, meaning, hey, Second Amendment means what it means here in this town. All right, I say kudos, bravo, and I hope that's reaffirmed tonight. I do think that some of those types of things are, in the grand scheme of things, not particularly, like, they don't really mean a whole lot. There's not a lot of teeth to those types of resolutions. But I applaud cities and counties and even states that choose to do so. And for me, I just as anti-gun organizations like to bang their drums about, look at what we're doing to prevent gun violence and whatnot. To me, when cities and states and counties pass resolutions saying that this is a sanctuary city, state, county, or whatever, Second Amendment is the real deal here in this jurisdiction. To me, it just signifies to people that, hey, it's an important issue, including to this state, this county, this city, and I applaud that. So, bravo. Let's get to our first story about these new gun releases, and this one was. This was honestly the one that was surprising to me, Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
This one from Taurus, USA. And they have come out with what they call the Toro, which is Taurus Optic Ready Option. And so essentially they have announced that they have released the Taurus G3 and G3C with optics ready options. This includes coming with, first of all, the gun sells with a cover plate to fill in the optic cut for when you're not using an optic, which is a nice thing. It should be done if you're going to do that. If you're going to have an optics ready pistol, I think you should have a plate to fill it. But then they have these other adapter plates that interface and are compatible with a number of different optics out there. Now, my first thing that I would say here is that not all plates are created equal. And depending on how some of these are done, like some of these I know are, you stick the optic on the plate and you run the screws through the optic, and the optic's passing through the plate and going into the slide. Like, that's probably going to work pretty well. But some of these, I suspect, maybe just relying on, and I could be wrong in this, but where you basically screw the plate to the slide and then you screw the optic to the plate, like the MOS system does on the Glocks. Mm-hmm. Those tend to fail. Now that I look at this, I do see that the hole patterns on three of these plates is very similar. And then the RMR one's got that slightly wider set screw pattern hole, or screw hole pattern. Actually, maybe all of these are designed. So they do have 4 holes in the top of the slide, 2 sets of holes. So actually, maybe these are not plates that you're screwing optics to, but they are just simply plates to change the footprint, add recoil bosses that fit those various optics, and then they've got 4 holes here, 2 pairs of which will be used for different styles of optics. Now they've got Doctor, Noblex. I've never even heard of Noblex. Vortex, Venom, Burris, Fastfire, Sightmark Mini, RMR, Holosun. That would include the SRO then as well. Seymour STS2 and Leupold Delta Point and Bushnell RXS 250. And I would think if that's Leupold Delta Point Pro compatible, should be compatible with the Romeo 1 Pro then as well, at least I would think. So 4 different plates. Now, one thing I do appreciate is that they have these indexing, they're not really lugs, but there's these indexing cuts. That's a good sign to see, because what that means is you really lock those plates into those indexed points on the slide. which should, you want the energy of the recoil of that gun being fired to pass as much as possible through the slide directly into the optic. You don't want to be relying overly, too much on the screws taking that recoil energy. The screw should hold the optic onto the slide, but then the recoil lugs and bosses and things is what should actually transfer that energy, so that we're not busting screws and stuff. So anyway, so that's promising to see. But again, it is Taurus, which is known as a more budget-oriented manufacturer. So how well this is implemented and how well it'll hold up to optics, being used and fired and tested, it's a good question.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah. So Cyrus on Facebook says, he says, man, I may get crucified for this, but I hope you don't. But I shot a G2C, a Taurus G2C, and bought one immediately. Bought a G3C, also great guns. Still won't carry them over my 43X, but Taurus has come a long way. And yeah, they have. I mean, I've seen a lot more. I mean, there's still Taurus, and like you said, you probably trust your Glock over the Taurus, but I have seen a lot more Taurus. I don't know about you, Riley, but I've seen a lot more Taurus guns come, the G3 come through concealed carry classes. I mean, I haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of problems with them. I mean, granted, it's not a high stress test, right? Or testing of the gear through your general concealed carry class, but I am seeing more of them. It's good to see Taurus at least like saying, hey, we have to provide optic ready guns for our consumers. Changing out.
The future is now, old man.
Yeah. And they have to. And so that's a good sign. It's a sign that at least they're forward thinking enough, or not forward thinking enough, but like innovating and not just saying, hey, let's just call it a G3C and put a little different like trigger, thumb swell on the side of the gun, or give a different checkering pattern of the grip and we'll call it the G3. They're actually, and we were talking about, they change the sights on the gun and stuff. So different things. But yeah, like you said, it just needs to be pressure tested and stuff over time, but it's a good sign.
Yeah. So for my gear review today, I'm actually going to give an up, because I think I talked about them before. I could be wrong, but I'm going to give a status update on the Taurus G3 and G3C that I've been testing and evaluating. And so I'll do that here later in the show. So I'll provide some additional thoughts and feedback about what I think about these latest guns from Taurus. So anyway, let's go on now to the next one. Matthew, tell me what you think about this Walther PDP.
Yes.
PDP, in case that did not come out clearly. Personal defense pistol, I think.
Yeah.
Stands for.
Personal defense pistol. Yeah. So Walther obviously making like really, everybody loves the ergonomic feel of Walther pistols and stuff. Obviously a long track record of making good firearms and things like that, but good handguns especially. But the PDP, I know was kind of like I saw on, because Scott Jedlinski, he's kind of partnered with Walther and kind of
he's a part of what's called the Walther Defense Division, which they've brought on several people: Scott, Bill Blowers, Tatiana Whitlock, Jim Dexter, whom some of you may not know, but trust me, he's a solid dude. I feel like there's one more. I can't think of what his name is right now, but yeah, the Walther Defense Division. So Scott's part of that.
Yeah. And so I saw, because I saw some social media posts that he, was blacking out, because it wasn't released yet. So there was a lot of like little growing hype around this pistol, and the fact that it might, replace. I don't know if a lot of the listeners might have like a PPQ, right? And, you know, it might be kind of like one of those, it's Glock 19-ish in size, pretty much, right? Yeah, and, you know, I was looking at it. You know, I have to say, I'm not like, I'm glad it doesn't have like the paddle, you know, magazine release. You know, there's really like a lot of ergonomic stuff that looks really nice about it. It's obviously optic ready, right? Like that's a no-brainer these days. But I guess I'll mention that. But yeah, I was actually looking at it and saying, man, if there is something that I would, you know, try out or like to get my hands on, probably be that. But you know, we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, I talked with Scott too, a couple of days after the announcement was made about these new guns. And we actually did a video that is yet to be published on our YouTube channel, partly because there's some audio issues in it. And I'm still trying to see if we can get some of that cleaned up and resolved. But really, really impressive looking pistol specification wise. I mean, look at it this way. There's a lot of people that really like the PPQ. And the PPQ it's shown to be it's a very solid gun. And the PDP is just kind of, as I see it, the next evolution of the PPQ. I think Walther is going to continue probably making the PPQ even still. But the PDP, I think, is where it's at. It's sort of a culmination of a lot of things I think Walther has learned over the years. And we have the PDP compact, which you kind of touched on. I mean, this is very Glock 19 sized. Then there's a PDP full size 4-inch and a PDP full size 4.5-inch. And by that, they mean it's a full size grip length, essentially. There are 18 round mag capacity on the full size models. But the barrel and slide length on the PDP compact and PDP full size 4-inch is basically the same. It's basically identical. Just in the case of the 4.5-inch, you get you get a 1/2-inch longer barrel and slide. The ergonomics of these looks phenomenal. I'll just say that based on what I can see. The grip texture looks very promising. If we go up a little bit here as we're looking at this on the screen, you get kind of a close-up of this grip texture, and it's a tetrahedron kind of design and shape. So it's sort of like it's a bit cubic like, you know, but with these points. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like a hex, right? But you sort of get these three sides that put all that together, and I'm confident that the grip on this is really, really effective, while not being overly abrasive. And it actually says here in the description that it's designed to be to really grip to your hand, but not to be abrasive to where it irritates your skin when you're carrying it concealed or your clothing. Because we all know the pistols out there that basically wear holes and stuff in your shirt and whatnot. Really effective looking serrations on the slide. Great trigger. Walther's been known for the great triggers in the PPQ and the Q series pistols. This just carries that forward and improves upon it even further. Yeah, very, very promising looking pistol. And it's actually, you know, I'm a friend of Scott Jedlinski, and it's actually really cool to see his influence on this design, including if I go down, you look at the actually says here, red dot ergonomics, and you might be like, what's red dot ergonomics? What we tend to see more often than not when people lose their dot in their optic on a pistol, it's usually high of some kind, like it's the pistol's elevated slightly to where they lose the dot. Occasionally it's going to be left or right. That's usually pretty easily fixed with just a little work on your index, right? Making sure you always grip the pistol the same way. If you always grip the same way, your dot should be on, you know, as far as not left, not right, should be pretty center line. So then it's just a matter of figuring out if we're high or low. And more often than not, people aren't low, they're usually high. And a little bit more pinky pressure usually helps drop that dot right down to the window. And you'll see that the ergonomics of this pistol are designed in such a way to kind of facilitate that, make that even more intuitive. So that's kind of interesting. And again, it's just cool to see his influence on this gun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Walther PDP, and I'll tell you, it's been getting a lot of press, a lot of people talking about it. Let's go on now to the Hellcat RDP. Kind of similar. RDP standing for Rapid Defense Package configuration. This is the Hellcat, and really what it means is it has a compensator. It's optics ready. You can buy it even with an optic. And they do also now have a manual safety. I think that's an option, although everything that they're showing here shows the safety on the gun. Maybe it's not optional. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so it does actually say down on the page a little further, this manual safety is an optional ambidextrous manual safety. So that's good. I mean, at least you give people the option of whether they want the safety or not. Threaded barrel that then, of course, fits with this compensator. Okay, so really, what this is all about is you're carrying this really compact pistol that tends to be more challenging to shoot, but we're adding some features that may make it a little bit easier to shoot.
Yeah.
How much? No idea. Compensators can be effective. They're most effective with high gas volume, which tends to be a higher velocity 9mm round. So, and I have no idea how effective this one is. It'd be interesting to test. I don't know. Oh, and they did say that it has a redesigned trigger from the original Hellcat trigger. There was some concerns about that trigger and how it interfaced with certain people's fingers and causing some issues where people, if they were side loading the trigger at all before they actually pressed through the trigger, then it would sort of like lock the trigger up.
All right. Yeah. And I don't know, you mentioned the compensator thing. Like, I'm not against compensators. I think obviously, they're proven that they work, right? And what they want and what you want them to do. And every compensator is a little different, Riley, like the way it works, or the way it vents out, the pressure and the gases and things like that is a little bit different in the way it interacts with the barrel. But my only concern for a compensator on a self-defense gun is, there have been issues with jacketed parts coming out, or venting combustion gases into your face and things like that. And so it's just one of those things that
you're talking like if someone was shooting from a retention.
I'm sorry. Yes. From a retention, since a self-defense pistol, you may be using it from a retention position, not fully extended, up close against your body, and these types of things. So it's just for a self-defense pistol. I'm not saying that I've never shot this, so I'm not saying that it suffers from these issues or anything like that. But it is something to consider when you're looking at compensators for a self-defense handgun. But just my opinion.
That is a possibility. One of the reasons why, if you're going to have a comp on a carry pistol, I prefer the design that has where the porting of the comp itself is all vertical. This one looks like it has a couple of smaller ports on the side. So to your point, where I see that being problematic is if I have a 1 or 2 chamber compensator that vents all the gases upward, and that's where you want most of that pressure anyways. That's what's going to help keep the muzzle of the pistol down. That's more manageable because it's honestly the way I index my pistol for retention shooting, Matthew, against my chest. When we're talking about a true retention, like close combat position here, it's angled enough outward away from me that I don't worry about catching any jacket or anything like that at all, because I'm already canted probably close to 45 degrees. So it's away from my face. But in this case, this is a 3-port compensator and it has a couple on the side. I angle it that way and I'm just pointing one of those ports at my face, so I think that's a bit of a I think that's a bit of a misstep, on a pistol like this. That's clearly for concealed carry. But at the same time, like how often does anyone actually shoot from a true retention position in deadly force encounters? It's probably pretty rare. So, and even if you did catch some jacket in your face, hopefully it doesn't take you out of the fight, although it could.
Mm-hmm.
That's the concern probably. Now, let's take a quick look at the new Hex branded red dot optics. This is, as I've looked into it, is apparent that Hex Optics is like a subsidiary of some kind of Springfield Armory. So these are their optics. This is their optic line. Hex is the brand. This particular model is called the Wasp, and it has the RMSC footprint, which is same as the Romeo Zero, same as the Holosun 507K. And so it's got that, this has been basically a standardized footprint. The one exception is when Trijicon released their RMRC, which is its own thing. But all these other optics are based around this RMSC, Shield RMSC footprint, which I think is good. And this looks like a fairly robust optic for its size, for what it is. But, it's brand new and unproven. So, take caution, and at putting much faith in something like this. We'll have to, see how they do in the market and how they test out. But yeah, this is kind of the whole package. I mean, this is basically kind of what I'm moving to more and more with some of my carry pistols. Like right now I'm carrying a P320 that's comped and has a red dot on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll just add this in because I remember when this first came out, Josh, our editor, he was saying, what's with the demonic, like nomenclature for this? I think the Hex optic is because it's a hexagon shape, not like they're putting a hex on people. But however you want to look at it, man. But
right, you got the Hellcat and the Hex. We're gonna hex you, buddy. No, you do see that. If I go back here to this view, you kind of see this, the way these angles are cut in the frame of that optic, kind of hexagonal, sort of like, I guess. Anyway. All right, moving on. Matthew, we got this story from NPR about, did record gun sales cause a spike in gun crime? Researchers say it's complicated.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, that's probably the most straightforward and honest, like, media title of article that you could have, right? Like, normally what you see is like, gun crime is up. It's due to more gun sales or vice versa or whatever, right? Like whatever. And this is one of those things. And the reason why, and NPR, in case you guys don't know, is not like a super, super right-wing conservative propaganda news outlet, okay? They tend to be more, I would say, left or liberal in their reporting. However, they got it right. They obviously through last year, crimes have gone up. Violent crime has gone up drastically, and violent crime with firearms has gone up. And so one could reference one of our first stories that we did and say, oh, well, it's all these guns, all these new gun owners, and millions of guns are out there. And of course, this is what we've been saying. The more guns that are out there, the more crime is going to go up. And if you do that whole, I look at this statistic and how can I jam it into my ideology so it comes out at the end where I'm correct, then you get that. But they say, hold up, it's a little more complicated, and they go through, when were these spikes actually occurring, and gun ownership has been going up and up and up for several years in a row, drastically. We talked about 2016 being the prior record, and the violent crime didn't, mirror that trend, right? And so what caused the spike? It's probably not new gun owners, right? Like, certainly it could be, but like it doesn't. If you look at the overall trending of this stuff, it's probably not that. In the article, it's written pretty well. It's it doesn't seem very biased one way or the other. And this is one of those things, and why I thought it was important to bring this up is that, like, we can really, and I see it all the time, that we can really get lose our credibility when we start citing statistics out of context, or citing statistics in order to prove something. And it works in this regard, but then it can also be, the old argument, like, well, wherever there's gun control, there's more crime. Well, that's not necessarily, or where there's more, gun control, there's more gun crime. That's not necessarily true, right? Like, there are states that are very lax in their gun laws and have higher gun crime. It's more complicated. So what I'm saying is, research say it's more complicated. I think most of these statistics are more complicated, and we should dive in and try to understand it before we start throwing around statistics to prove our point.
Yep. Yeah. When we actually look at this, it just, I guess my big takeaway, Matthew, is that there's a couple interesting things that stand out. I mean, it talks about how crime went up, right? Particularly violent crime this last year. It is complicated because the last year, because I think of a combination of COVID-19, stay-at-home orders, people losing jobs and work. There was a greater sense of desperation, right? At large in our society.
Sure.
There were political issues that were stirring up unrest. There were some shootings involving police, and see, all this adds up to a year of turmoil that I think overall, just the state of the minds of the people was kind of in a rough place. Mm-hmm. So I think it is complicated to understand and explain why crime why crime rose the way it did. Could it be blamed for the increase in sale of guns? I don't think so. And there's a really great point that's made by University of Denver's Trent Steidley, who studies the sociology of firearms in America. And he says it's too early to conclude the increase in the overall supply of legal guns last year led to more guns used in crimes, especially when you look at the last decade. He says, quote, "We've sold a lot of guns since 2008. That is very true. And year over year until 2020, we saw crime rates declining. I don't think 2020 is going to settle this." So that's a very, very valid point. I think that there were many more other reasons why violent crime rate rose the way it did in 2020. And I think it is unlikely that legal gun sales contributed to that significantly, if at all.
Right.
Got to move along. We're running out of time. Final story, the moronic myths of microstamping. Won't spend too much time on this, but on the nssf.org's website, this article is on their blog. Talks about the idea of microstamping. It's been touted as a means of gun safety by the anti-gun crowd for a number of years now. And the NSSF here just basically goes through and explains why it is an unproven and unworkable technology. One point here in the article talks about how the microstamping mark on the tip of a firing pin is only 25 microns deep, which is like half the diameter of a typical human hair. It's not very much, right? So it'd be really easy for people just to file that microstamping off in the case of those that wish to circumvent the law and, commit untraceable crimes, so to speak. I was thinking like it probably wouldn't take that much. Like firing pins take a beating anyway and do wear out over time. It probably wouldn't take that long before the microstamping was obliterated just by the simple act of firing. Like, I mean, it might not be as much an issue for people that don't shoot more than a few hundred rounds a year, but for somebody like me that shoots thousands and thousands of rounds in a year, yeah, I'd be amazed if that micro stamping, was able to survive very long at all. But here's the thing. This is really eye opening. It says the bottom line is micro stamping doesn't work. Quoting, where's his full name here? Lizotte, or whatever. Where's his full name though? Hold on, looking it up. Todd Lizotte. He's the person that holds the patent for the sole source micro stamping technology, the article says. He himself agrees that the alphanumeric codes that are used in micro stamping are often illegible even under perfect conditions. Electron microscopes couldn't detect legible codes in testing. Even under perfect conditions, it would take at least 10 spent cartridges to make an educated guess to piece together a legible code.
Mm-hmm.
That's eye-opening. And this is the guy that invented the technology and holds the patent on it, admitting that, hey, like the dude's got the patent. He came up with the process apparently, but the technology's not there yet.
Yeah. And I truthfully, and I may be being pessimistic or a skeptic here, but I think truthfully, the idea behind microstamping or pushing microstamping is not even, they know all this. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the idea is to bankrupt as many gun manufacturers as you can and add this a higher price to the gun owner, the purchaser, the consumer. So it just make it's another hurdle. I truly believe that. So, mm-hmm. But I'm a little bit of a pessimistic.
And I don't disagree with you. I mean, as far as that they know this or that they may know this. I mean, the example is given right here in the article about how California's law requiring for new manufactured handguns to get onto the roster of handguns in California. They either have to comply with all these new requirements, including microstamping, or 3 older model of guns have to be removed for every 1 new gun that gets added to the roster.
There you go.
Right? So as of right now, you have 497 guns on the approved roster. But when that law took effect, there were almost double that amount. There's almost 1,000 guns on the roster. Now we're down about half that. You wonder why Californians are whining all the time. I don't mean whining, and guys, don't read into that too much. But because it's justified, legitimate whining. I would be too. People are complaining about not being able to get certain guns in California. This is why. So this is its own form of gun control, and like in terms of actually removing guns from the market for people that they can buy and own, is something as silly and as simple and stupid as microstamping. Anyway, we're over time. Let's get now to our gear reviews. Matthew, why don't we hear yours first?
All right, so I'm going to make this real quick because I know we're running a little bit late, but I got the new Mantis. If you guys are familiar with Mantis X, the little device that you put on your firearm, it helps give you all kinds of feedback about your where the muzzle's moving, recoil, impulse, all kinds of stuff. Really cool device. Well, they came out with the Laser Academy. So it's similar to, if you guys listen to the Shooter Ready Challenge with LASR software, it's similar in the respect that it's a shot recording application. It's free when you buy you can download it for free. You can unlock some stuff by purchasing extra drills and things like that. But the Laser Academy, it comes with like a case. I don't know if you can. Here you go. You can see this. It's got a little tripod for your phone, because that's how you can use a phone or a tablet, iPad, something like that for the camera. But different little adapters to hold your phone or whatnot. It has a little laser cartridge, which is really cool. Obviously, you have to get it in the right caliber, but it allows you to use your actual firearm. And then it comes with a bunch of these different targets. So There's 2 different sizes. So you can see, depending on how far you want to be and what yardage you want to simulate that you're shooting at this target. But all different kinds, IDPA, USPSA, different, or let's see, just different targets, hostage targets. There's actually a dot torture drill in here, Riley. And so, since ammunition's a little expensive, that 50 round drill, you can do that. But it's really cool. The software itself is really good. The interaction or the interface is really good so far with what I've gone through it. You can run different time drills, you can actually have 2 people shooting a drill, like a dueling drill and things like that. So very cool. Yeah, Mantis, you guys know their innovation is always, they're always updating their app. The Mantis device, I mean, they go through so many iterations and always updating the application to reflect new capabilities so far I've been loving this kit, and I've got it all set up. But like I said, it comes with a tripod, the little sticky things, even these, I'll grab these, even these little rubber thing or sticky things that you can, poster things that you can stick it to the wall, different targets and stuff. So really cool, compact, easy to carry around. So, I've had it for about a week now and using it probably 3 or 4 days now. And it's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you sharing your review of the Mantis X Laser Academy with us. All right, on to my review. And I told you guys earlier, I teased that I would spend a little time talking about the Taurus G3 and G3C pistols. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on camera with these because some of the Facebook and YouTubes get a little bit they get weird with that sometimes. Anyway, so I've had these for a while, actually since last year. I just haven't been able to get out and actually shoot them as much as I'd like to. Some of that's been the availability of ammunition, but some of that's just been I haven't been able to get to the range and actually just work on things like testing and evaluations and reviews and such as much lately. So I'm hoping to get out to the range here the next week or two and put some more rounds through these, because right now through the G3 I have like maybe 250 rounds, which is not a whole lot. And to be honest, I don't know how many rounds I'm going to put through these, because where I'm at, I really have to conserve. You guys, where I'm at in my competitive shooting and the goals that I have set. At least some of you know. I don't have the ability to just go and do a 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 round test on these right now, and use up ammunition that I need to set aside and dedicate for my own personal progress. But I do hope to get several hundred more rounds through each of the G3 and G3C pistols. I think I've got about the same rounds through each of these guns at this point. So a couple of quick things. The grip texture on these is improved over the older Taurus models. Similar locations to the G2 series pistols, but it's a little bit tackier. It's a little bit more pronounced. It might even, for some people, be a little bit overly aggressive, but for me, it's probably just about right. There's really good purchase on the gun, so I appreciate that. The mag release is a little undersized. That's probably one of my bigger complaints. I have to really work to make sure I hit that mag release positively to get reliable magazine extraction. The manual safety that's on these, and it's very similar to previous generations Taurus pistols manual safeties. It's very intuitive, simple to use, not a big deal there. Non-ambidextrous, and nor is there a left-hand friendly slide stop lever either. So these are, I do believe you can reverse the mag release, but you don't have the ability to change the other controls if you're a southpaw. So that's a little bit unfortunate. The trigger on them, I'll say, I don't dislike the trigger on these G3 and G3C pistols. It really isn't a bad trigger. It's very Glock-like. You have some take up, and then you get to a wall, and there's a little bit of, it stacks a little bit on you there right at the wall before it finally breaks. Little bit of mush, maybe, as some people would describe it, but it's not bad. It's not terrible. It's very, very serviceable. And then, of course, they have what they call their double strike capability, meaning that you can shoot it in basically what would be considered more like a single action mode. But then if for some reason the gun didn't fire, you had a bad primer, light primer strike, you can release the trigger and it goes kind of into a double action mode. And then you do a long double action press to get it to fire, hopefully a second time or on your second attempt. Even that double action's not, it's not great, but it's not terrible, honestly. I owned a PT-111 years and years ago and hated that pistol. The trigger was terrible. It was nasty. It's one of the nastiest triggers I've ever owned on a pistol. Even when you get to the wall, there was this kind of this gritty, unpredictable, just before it finally would break. And you could actually feel the trigger flexing on some of those older guns too. So that was kind of undesirable as well. The looks of the pistol's fine, very utilitarian. Front serrations, if you're a front serration lover. Now, the one thing is on the G3 pistol, the rear sight is a different design from the sight on the G3C. The G3C looks like it's using a Glock front sight and a Glock dovetail rear, which is great because that should expand your aftermarket sight offerings. That's been an issue for Taurus gun owners in the past. Nobody makes replacement sights really for this guy here. This is the larger footprint, if you will, of the rear sight on it's the same design they've used for a couple generations of the Taurus pistols, I believe. So Glock style sights, and the sights on this G3C are steel, which is awesome. And they're very serviceable. I probably wouldn't bother replacing the sights on this gun, to be honest with you. You have a blacked out rear with serrations on the back face of that rear sight, which is great for helping reduce reflections and glare off the flat surface of that rear sight if you have light hitting it the right or wrong way. The front sight's just a simple white dot. Not the end of the world, but I have a white dot, a little bit of contrast there with a blacked out rear. I actually had zero problems picking up a clean sight picture in rapid strings of fire on the G3C. Contrast that with the G3, which has 3-dot sight front and rear. I wasn't as keen about the sight picture on the G3. I would probably color in the 2 dots on the rear sight if I was going to hang on to this thing long term, which I may. I haven't decided yet. But the sights on the G3 are plastic. Now, I did note that on the website now, they show an option of the G3 with steel sights, and I noticed that they're the same cut, the Glock style dovetail rear Glock front sight on the newer version of the G3. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a wise kind of next generation, kind of next evolution, if you will, of these G3 series pistols. Of course, we talked about how they now have the optics ready version for both the G3 and G3C, which I think is promising. Although the irony there is that they're showing photos of guns with optics that cost, in some cases, like in the case of an RMR, it's like double the price of the gun that it sits on. That's not the end of the world. I have rifles that have optics that are more expensive than the rifles themselves, but good glass is good glass. But these are relatively inexpensive pistols, and there's not the greatest of reputations that Taurus has. There's been some problems. I have had Taurus guns come through my classes, a PT-111 that was very problematic for the user. Lots of failure to eject, mostly a lot of stovepipe malfunctions on that particular gun. Haven't seen a lot of the G2Cs in classes. I feel like maybe I've seen one, and if that's true, I don't think it really had any. It would have been more memorable if there was problems. I have not seen the newer G3s come through in classes that I've taught. I guess what I'm saying is that while there are definitely options out there, like including the gun that I carry, that I think are a little bit more proven and are made maybe to more exacting standards. But I do not totally dislike these Taurus G3 and G3C pistols. So a budget gun for sure. I sometimes question people that justify decisions solely based on price and cost. I think that's that's definitely for me. It's a very secondary or even a tertiary consideration when I'm evaluating equipment that is life saving. Okay, but it's a budget option out there that honestly there are some people that truly can't afford much more. So I appreciate that there are budget options, and so far these ones seem to be running pretty well. Caleb Giddings did a 500 round test, I think, on a G3C that ran pretty well. I haven't seen too many big time round count, tests on them. I have heard some anecdotal stories of some G3 series guns that had some issues here and there with the reliability, but overall seems like they're generally performing, pretty well. But I'll probably stick with I'll say this. I will stick with my other guns, but this has been an interesting thing getting my hands on these and testing them out. And I do think that these are vastly improved over the PT-111s of yesteryear, for sure. So that's my take on the Taurus pistols.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I should have mentioned magazines. That's one of the downsides is they're not as readily available, not as easily found in some of the stores I frequent. If you want to pick up spare mags, so you might have to look online more for that stuff. But they do have, in the case of G3C, 10 round and 12 round options available. And in the case of the G3, I believe there's 15 and even 17 round. In fact, I have them both. I have a 15 and a 17 round. Now, what they did, though, and I think this is a bit unfortunate, but this is the standard pistol and grip length for the G3. And so the standard magazine that comes with this is a 15 round. So when you get the 17 rounder, it actually extends below the bottom of the grip and it has a little, filler piece that fills in the gap, which I noted doesn't really stay put very well. And that bothers me a little bit. If I was carrying the 17 round as like a spare mag, I'd probably just leave that little filler piece off. There's plenty of grip length for you to get your hand on these anyway. So
cool, man.
Yeah. A couple
sounds good.
Thought I'd mention there. Well, let's let these poor folks go. They've listened to us long enough. So, guys, thanks for being part of this episode with us here today. I think Jacob and I are doing the 4 p.m. episode here in a little bit. So stay tuned for that. And we should do a giveaway.
I already got it right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Drum roll. Who is our weekly giveaway winner?
Our winner, Brian. You are winning a Draw Like the Pro training course. I will email you. Just make sure you check your email and get back to me. And next week, we're giving away a set of Roger 22 electronic hearing protection ear pro.
That's a big deal, actually.
Big deal.
I think. Yeah. Guys, electronic ear pro, you want a set? Don't have one? You come into the Guardian Conference later this year and you don't have electronic hearing protection, you should come with some, and you should come with a new pair of Roger 22s from Ready Up Gear. So value on that price, what, $45 or $49 or something like that? So, yeah, awesome. Super excited to award to one of you lucky winners next week a pair of Ready Up Gear Roger 22s. That's what I wear now. So you'll see me at the matches running those. I've been very, very happy with them. And I paired mine with the soft seal gel ear cups that are also available from Ready Up Gear. Just upgrades those to, I mean, they feel like they're really, really high end ear pro at that point, like $200 or $300 ear pro with those soft seal gel cups on them. So super, super cool. Guys, go get signed up for a weekly prize giveaway at concealedcarry.com/podcast prize. And with that, we're going to let you go. A reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.